Puryear's revelation. A summary. Based on the Edgar Cayce readings. Introduction. The revelation portrays a sequential process that corresponds to the awakening of the higher self. The revelation depicts the internal struggles that occur within each individual as spiritual development takes place, and the basic lower nature of humankind evolves to its higher spiritual nature. The revelation is essentially a handbook for the sequential evolution of human consciousness, as individuals reawaken to their connection to the divine. Content. Puryear's revelation process is separated into 7 stages. Self-evaluation. Opening of the centers. Personal purification. Establishment of the higher self as the ideal. Meeting the karmic memory of the 7 centers. Overthrowing the dominion of the lower self. Ascendency of the new higher self. Stage 1. Self-evaluation. Seek to know what self is lacking. Even as given in the first 4 chapters. There is a need for all individuals to take a personal assessment of the self's qualities and faults related to each of these motivational centers, or chakras. During the process of meditation, the energy of attunement, the Kundalini, begins to rise through the 7 spiritual centers. The 7 churches are the gonads, cells of Leydig, adrenals, thymus, thyroid, pineal, pituitary. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne. The 4 lower centers relate to earthly desires. Self-sustenance, gonads, self-propagation, cells of Leydig, self-preservation, adrenals, and self-gratification, thymus. These 4 earthly desires and the 5 senses must become subservient to the higher forces before we can carry on to Stage 2. Stage 2. Opening of the centers. Do not attempt to open any of the centers of the book until self has been tried in the balance of self's own conscious relationship to the creative forces, and not found wanting. No one should attempt to open these centers without the awareness of the spirit of the universal Christ consciousness. With the help of Christ we can open the 7 seals safely. The symbol of the slain lamb represents the universal Christ consciousness, whom has sacrificed both its awareness and its desires in preference for the divine. Opening of the 7 seals means the hormones are secreted from each gland within the body as messengers, which are physical forces that ride forth to their expression. What we are trying to achieve at Stage 2 is to spiritualize the 144,000 sealed cells in the body, and therefore higher vibrations influence the rest of the body. A new pattern of the higher self, or the spiritual ideal, is now established. We have sealed the servants of our God in our foreheads. The 12 tribes or parts of the body are now spiritualized and ready for the next stage. Stage 3. Personal purification. Purified and conquered and used for the development and the oneness of the individual's purposes and desires. Stage 3 is a continuation of the attunement process, which will eventually lead us to self-purification. The sounding of the 7 trumpets are the body's experiences during physical purification after the opening of the 7 seals. Have you done any good acts lately? When seeking to become in attunement with God, your acts will be used as judgment against or for you. The 2 witnesses are our past earthly lives and our soul's planetary sojourns that we carry with us as memory everywhere. Once purified, the temple of God opens up and allow us face-to-face communion with the divine. The consciousness of the self becomes attuned to the superconsciousness with the divine. Enlightenment is attained at this level. Stage 4. Establishment of the higher self as the ideal. Whosoever will may take of the water of life. There is no select few because there is no limit to God's love. anyone can achieve at-one-ment with God. In Stage 4 we deal with the 7 combined forces. A woman clothed with the sun are all of our experiences in the earth and materiality that have brought us to this point of time. A child, travailing in birth, is the birth of a spiritual ideal. A great red dragon are rebellious forces within self that would attempt to destroy our higher ideal. Michael, the archangel, are spiritual forces that would assist, guide and protect the individual on their path toward enlightenment. War between Michael and the red dragon symbolizes the conflict between the spiritual ideal and the material and selfish concerns that have become part of the individual's consciousness. A beast, rising out of the sea, are the cells of Lydig and the individual's motivation of self-propagation rising up in rebellion. A beast, coming out of the earth, is the gonad center and the individual's motivation for self-sustenance feeling threatened by the establishment of a higher spiritual ideal. A lamb with 144,000 faithful is the continual attunement and adherence to the spiritual ideal. Beware of being the false prophet. At this level we may manifest spiritual gifts such as healing and psychic ability, even miracles, but still remain spiritually immature, that is not in full accord with the living spirit. We have to be careful not to put our will and desires above that of the will of God, that is, lacking the consciousness of God. It is only by putting one's self in accord with the mind of the universal Christ consciousness that we can proceed to the next level of attunement. We must not rest but be in active service, for the benefit of the rest of mankind. We have reached a higher level of purification and transformation, but we are not yet an initiate. Stage 5. Meeting the karmic memory of the 7 centers. No man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels was fulfilled. In Stage 5 we are dealing with our karmic patterns and memories of each of the 7 centers, represented in the Revelation as the 7 final plagues. As these memory patterns are poured out upon the earth, brought to the awareness of the individual, they must be healed, purified, or transformed, fulfilling of every jot and tittle. That is, fulfilling of the law. The Battle of Armageddon is the conflict between our spiritual nature and our material urges that we have acquired on earth. The temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven is the book of life, or the Akashic records, which contains the record of the soul's past being revealed to the individual. The completion of meeting our karma is accomplished at the level of spirit with the help of Christ. He alone is each soul pattern. He alone is each soul pattern. He is thy karma, if ye put thy trust wholly in him. Jesus provided a pattern of behavior for every soul. Once the karmic patterns are cleansed, we come to the next stage, which is the judgment of Babylon. Knowing the lower self for what it is and overthrowing it. Stage 6. Overthrowing the dominion of the lower self. The awareness within each soul, imprinted in pattern on the mind and waiting to be awakened by the will of the soul's oneness with God. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee. Stage 6 is the final purification process, and our lower self will be brought under control and become subservient to our higher self. The city of Babylon and the woman of Babylon symbolizes our lower self. The bride and the New Jerusalem symbolizes the purified higher self. The lower self shall be overcome by the Lamb, the universal Christ consciousness. The challenge is not whether the lower self exists, but instead how long the individual allows it to reign supreme. After the lower self has been put aside, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders bow down, becoming subservient so that the revelation attunement can continue. At this level there will be the marriage of the bride. Our consciousness being so raised as to become as a new being. And the Lamb. Also this level of attainment, the white horse, Christ, is now the messenger of attunement, and the spirit of the universal Christ consciousness, or ideal, pervades our entire body. Be ye all determined within thy minds, thy hearts, thy purposes, to be of that number. Stage 7. Ascendency of the Higher Self. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, is the active flow of the purpose of the souls of men made pure in same. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. The personal revelation process has been completed, the higher self has become the dominant influence, and the individual has become transformed. The city of Jerusalem is the holy place, the holy city, and is a symbol for the higher self and the soul's higher purposes and experiences. We are no longer seeking for self, but instead we become an integral part of the activities of the divine. At this level we have divine understanding and purpose, also wisdom and enlightenment. At this level of awareness, we will no longer be susceptible to the dominion of the lower self. There will come a time when everything that exists will be in continuous attunement with the universal Christ ideal, the Lamb. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one. This spiritual transformation is our soul's birthright. We are a spiritual being having a physical experience. Our divine will becomes manifest. This revelation of self exists as a potential within all of us. Conclusion. Any sincere study of the revelation will result in the individual becoming more meek, more patient, more humble, and more in accord with the fruits of the Spirit. Through the symbolic exploration of archetypal images, patterns, and processes, John's visionary experience portrays the means through which each individual can awaken to a higher state of consciousness, and the pattern of wholeness exists as potential within the self. The revelation is the ultimate manual for self-discovery. Well done. We have completed all 7 stages. Setting aside the lower self. Personal evaluation and purification. Establishing a spiritual ideal. Facing everything within us that is out of accord with the workings of the Spirit. The true nature of the soul becomes manifest in the earth. The revelation of John is the revelation of how each and every individual can attain to an awareness of the universal Christ consciousness while in the earth. Final note. This summary was taken from Part 3 of the book Edgar Cayce on Soul Symbolism by Kevin Todeschi. The part on revelation is based on the work of Herbert Puryear, who presented this work at the AIE in the 80s.